In 2025, the assumption that the smartest people are the richest doesn't hold up, and the latest data backs this up. A recent Swedish study tracking earnings and cognitive ability found that while higher intelligence is linked to higher income up to about 60,000 euros, roughly $64,000, that relationship weakens for those earning well above the average. At the very top, the highest earners don't consistently score higher on intelligence measures than those just below them. This counterintuitive pattern raises questions about what actually drives extreme financial success. If intelligence only gets you so far, what explains who breaks through the ceiling? The answer lies in how the connection between intelligence and income changes as you move up the earnings ladder. The $75,000 ceiling. What researchers call the $75,000 ceiling is less a hard line and more a turning point in how intelligence relates to income. In the Swedish study, cognitive ability explained nearly 40% of income variation among people earning up to about 60,000 euros, right around the median income for many developed countries. Below this point, smarter individuals reliably earn more. But once earnings cross that threshold, the relationship between intelligence and income flattens out. Past the median, higher cognitive scores don't predict higher pay. Ability accounts for less than 5% of the difference in who earns what. This effect holds across a range of industries and professions. Early in most careers, jobs reward analytical skills and problem-solving, traits that standardized tests capture well. Promotions and raises are often based on performance metrics that favor those who learn quickly and handle complexity. But as incomes rise, especially into the top 10 to 20% of earners, the advantages of raw cognitive ability fade. The data shows that, while above-average intelligence is necessary to reach the middle and upper-middle income brackets, it's not enough to push someone into the very highest earning groups. Instead, other factors start to dominate. Risk tolerance, social networks, timing, and even luck become more important than test scores. Many of the top earners are business owners, sales leaders, or entrepreneurs. Roles where opportunity recognition, persistence, and the ability to build relationships matter more than technical expertise. The Swedish study found that individuals with only average cognitive scores sometimes out-earn their more intellectually gifted peers by large margins, especially once they move beyond conventional career paths. This doesn't mean intelligence stops mattering. It remains a baseline requirement for complex roles and leadership positions. But the data suggests that, past a certain income level, cognitive skills function more like a ticket to entry than a guarantee of further advancement. Those who continue to focus solely on technical mastery or accumulating credentials often plateau, while those who shift attention to strategy, influence, or scalable ventures break through the ceiling. The flattening curve also reflects how people sort themselves into professions. Many high IQ individuals are drawn to fields that prize expertise and offer stable, predictable rewards: academia, research, or public service. These careers place a premium on intellectual rigor, but they often come with salary caps and limited financial upside. Others, with similar or even lower cognitive scores, pursue paths where compensation is tied to scale, negotiation, or ownership, not just knowledge. This pattern helps explain a persistent paradox in the world of work. The most intellectually demanding jobs don't always pay the most. The brightest minds often end up in roles with prestige and influence, but not necessarily the highest incomes. Understanding this ceiling is key to seeing why so many talented individuals don't reach the very top of the income ladder, despite excelling by every traditional academic or professional measure. Prestige versus paycheck. Some of the most sought-after careers, those with high social status or intellectual recognition, do not offer the highest salaries. Fields prized for prestige, such as academia, scientific research, and public service, tend to compress salaries. Many specialists in these areas hit income ceilings far below what corporate executives or business owners can earn. For instance, a tenured professor might earn $100,000, while a mid-tier entrepreneur in the same city can often make $200,000 or more. This pattern is not limited to one country or sector. It's visible across healthcare, law, the arts, and even technology. The underlying reasons are straightforward. High-prestige roles have limited budgets and slow salary growth compared to the scalable revenues available to business owners. Academic and public sector institutions operate under tight funding and transparent pay scales, which restrict individual negotiation and cap upside potential. Even in the private sector, roles that are intellectually demanding but distant from direct revenue generation, like theoretical research or policy analysis, rarely see the same financial rewards as positions tied to profit and growth. This divide is reinforced early in career paths. High-achieving students are more likely to pursue pure disciplines such as mathematics, literature, or physics, drawn by the intellectual challenge and the respect these fields command. Yet these same paths often lead to jobs with modest pay and limited advancement. Meanwhile, those who choose applied or commercial fields, finance, sales, or entrepreneurship, encounter fewer barriers to high earnings, even if the work is less prestigious or intellectually rigorous. Social perception also plays a powerful role. Prestige acts as a kind of non-monetary currency, attracting talented individuals who value status, intellectual stimulation, or social impact over financial gain. Surveys consistently show that professions like university professor, judge, or public scientist are held in higher esteem than many better-paid corporate roles. This cultural cachet helps explain why individuals with the credentials to earn more elsewhere often remain in lower-paying, high-status jobs. Over a lifetime, the financial trade-off becomes stark. Someone who spends years pursuing advanced degrees and enters a prestigious but lower-paying field may never catch up in earnings to a peer who enters a lucrative industry straight out of college. The opportunity cost compounds, especially when factoring in years of unpaid training, limited bonuses, and rigid salary structures. In some cases, the gap in lifetime earnings can reach several $million. Certain professions highlight this divide even further. Classical musicians, for example, can spend decades honing their craft at elite institutions, only to earn less than local business owners or performers with little formal training. Similarly, public sector scientists or federal judges may turn down private sector offers many times higher, opting instead for roles that maximize status and influence rather than income. This prestige-driven sorting of talent has broader implications. When the most cognitively gifted individuals cluster in fields with limited economic leverage, society may not be maximizing its potential for innovation or wealth creation. Studies suggest that even a modest shift of top talent from academia or public service to entrepreneurship could have measurable effects on economic growth. Yet for many, the personal calculus still favors prestige over pay. Ultimately, the structure of the labor market ensures that the rewards of status and recognition often come at the expense of financial upside. For those who want both, the path looks very different, and the skills required to reach the highest income levels are not always the ones most valued in elite academic or professional circles. The business owner advantage. For those aiming for the highest income brackets, business ownership stands out as the most common path. Recent research from Sweden shows that the majority of top 1% earners are business owners, not employees. This pattern isn't unique to tech founders or high-profile entrepreneurs. Many top earners run mid-sized service companies, construction firms, or other businesses that rarely make headlines. The key difference lies in how income is generated. Business owners benefit from the profits of their entire enterprise, not just their own labor. This leverage allows everyday entrepreneurs to outpace even highly paid professionals. What sets business ownership apart is the nature of the skills involved. While corporate roles and traditional professions often demand high test scores and advanced degrees, running a successful business depends more on execution, persistence, and adaptability. Studies consistently find little correlation between founder IQ and long-term business success. Instead, practical abilities, like managing cash flow, acquiring clients, and building effective teams, matter far more than abstract reasoning or academic achievement. For example, in Sweden, most people earning well above the national average do so through business ownership, not by excelling on standardized tests. The structure of business income creates significant advantages. Unlike employees, who are limited by salary bands and performance reviews, business owners can scale their earnings by growing their operations. An owner with a small team can generate far more income than a solo professional, even if they personally work fewer hours. The ability to hire, delegate, and multiply output through others is a form of financial leverage that employment rarely matches. This is why owners of mid-sized firms often surpass the earnings of highly credentialed professionals, regardless of their own academic backgrounds. Another important factor is the compensation model. Employees, even at senior levels, face constraints from company policies and external oversight. Business owners, on the other hand, take profits directly and retain control over how they distribute earnings. This flexibility means that, with the right systems in place, owners can optimize for both income and lifestyle in ways that salaried roles cannot. In many cases, the majority of top earners in a given industry are not the most highly educated, but those who have built and managed successful enterprises. Educational credentials play a different role in entrepreneurship. While large corporations tend to filter candidates by degrees and test scores, business owners are more likely to succeed through hands-on experience and industry know-how. Surveys show that most top-earning business owners did not follow the traditional academic path. Instead, they learned through apprenticeships, on-the-job training, or by solving real-world problems as they arose. The skills that drive business growth, negotiation, leadership, process improvement, are rarely emphasized in formal education. Survival is another crucial aspect. Although many businesses fail in the early years, those that persist tend to generate substantial wealth for their owners. Data from Sweden and other developed countries reveal that surviving business owners have a much higher likelihood of entering the top income brackets compared to even the most successful employees. This survivorship effect highlights the unique opportunity business ownership offers for financial mobility. Access to capital can further tilt the odds. Well-funded businesses are more likely to survive and grow, regardless of the founder's intelligence level. Networks, family resources, or early financial backing often play a bigger role than cognitive ability in determining which ventures succeed. As a result, the path to high earnings through business is open to a broader range of people, not just those with elite academic credentials. Ultimately, the business owner advantage comes down to the structure of opportunity. Entrepreneurship rewards those who can spot gaps in the market, take action, and persist through setbacks. The traits that matter most, resilience, adaptability, and a willingness to act, are not the same as those measured by IQ tests or university exams. This is why business ownership remains the most reliable way to reach the highest income levels, even for those without exceptional intellectual gifts. But if intelligence isn't the deciding factor, what separates those who try from those who truly break through? One behavioral trait stands out among the highest earners, distinguishing them from even the smartest professionals. Risk tolerance pays off. Risk tolerance, rather than intelligence, becomes the defining trait among those who reach the highest income levels. A 2025 meta-analysis found that individuals in the top 1% of earners scored significantly higher on risk tolerance assessments than those just below them. This willingness to embrace uncertainty isn't something that can be taught in school or measured by standardized tests. It's a behavioral difference that influences every major decision, from career pivots to investment choices. Smart professionals often avoid risks, preferring the security of well-defined career paths and predictable outcomes. Years of academic achievement and professional training reinforce this mindset. The result is a ceiling. Even as their skills and credentials grow, their earnings remain bounded by the structures of their professions. In contrast, those willing to take calculated risks, starting a business, changing industries, or leveraging debt, are the ones who routinely break through income ceilings. The data shows that moderately intelligent risk-takers often reach the top 1% because they embrace the uncertainty that intelligence-trained minds tend to avoid. This pattern holds across industries. In medicine and law, for example, the highest earners aren't always those with the most impressive test scores or the most prestigious degrees. Instead, it's often individuals who step away from traditional roles and take on entrepreneurial ventures, such as opening clinics or starting boutique firms. Their success isn't just about expertise. It's about being willing to take on financial and reputational risks that others would rather avoid. Similarly, in finance, top traders and investors are distinguished less by their academic credentials and more by their comfort with making high-stakes decisions in uncertain environments. The inverse is visible in professions that select for risk aversion. Actuaries and research scientists, fields populated by some of the most analytically gifted, tend to have stable but capped salaries. Their training emphasizes minimizing errors and avoiding uncertainty, which translates into conservative career choices and lower overall earnings. The same analytical abilities that help them excel in complex problem-solving can also make them more sensitive to the potential downsides of risk. reinforcing a preference for stability over opportunity. Personality research supports this divide. High openness to experience, a trait associated with creativity and exploration, correlates with both risk-taking and higher earnings potential, but only weakly with intelligence. This means that some of the most intellectually gifted individuals simply aren't drawn to or comfortable with the kinds of risks that can lead to extreme financial outcomes. Their satisfaction comes from mastery and recognition, not from chasing uncertain rewards. Geography and timing also matter. High IQ professionals tend to cluster in established, stable regions and industries, where the risks are lower, but so is the potential for outsized rewards. Those who end up in the top 1% often have nonlinear career paths, marked by pivots, failures, and comebacks that would deter the risk-averse. Each pivot carries the possibility of loss, but also the potential for a breakthrough. Ultimately, the research is clear. While intelligence helps open doors, risk tolerance determines who walks through the ones that lead to the highest rewards. This explains why, past a certain point, additional cognitive ability doesn't guarantee higher income. Instead, those who can manage uncertainty and act decisively, even without the highest test scores, are the ones who reach the financial summit. But risk-taking alone isn't enough. At the highest levels, another factor comes into play, one that has little to do with what you know and everything to do with who you know. Networking over knowledge. Incomes above the intelligence threshold are shaped by something less tangible, social capital. Research consistently shows that top earners maintain larger and more influential networks than those earning just below them. The Swedish study found that once cognitive ability stopped predicting higher income, social connections became the decisive factor. For those in the highest income brackets, the ability to build and leverage relationships outweighed raw intellect. Networks act as force multipliers for opportunity. Professionals who are well-connected gain access to information, deals, and introductions that remain out of reach for even the most capable individuals working in isolation. Consider the example of corporate partners. Those who actively cultivate broad professional networks consistently see larger bonuses and faster advancement than equally intelligent but less connected peers. The difference isn't just in the number of contacts, but in the quality and depth of those relationships. A single introduction to the right decision-maker can open doors that years of technical mastery cannot. This pattern emerges early in careers and compounds over time. Studies tracking business school graduates show that future executives often started with twice as many professional contacts as their classmates, regardless of GPA. These networks expand as careers progress, creating a kind of path dependence where moderately intelligent but well-connected individuals eventually outpace their more academically accomplished but socially isolated counterparts. The snowball effect of early connections amplifies over decades, shaping who receives key promotions and lucrative opportunities. Within organizations, the value of networking is formalized. Promotion committees and hiring managers for high-paying roles routinely cite internal alliances and cross-departmental relationships as critical factors. Research from Harvard Business School found that employees with strong internal networks were promoted to senior roles more than 50% more often than higher-performing but less connected colleagues. The social skills required to build these alliances, emotional intelligence, adaptability, and trust building, are only weakly linked to cognitive test scores. Outside the office, informal networks create additional financial advantage. Access to exclusive social spaces, such as private clubs or industry events, often leads to opportunities that never appear in formal job postings or public markets. The Swedish data showed that top earners frequently had access to these informal networks, which facilitated private deals and opportunities unavailable to those outside the circle. Membership in these circles can result in significant income differences, even among individuals with similar qualifications and experience. Family resources and inherited connections further widen the gap. Analyses by central banks and labor economists show that a substantial portion of top earners come from families already in high-income brackets. These individuals benefit from early introductions, mentorship, and entry into established networks, advantages that compound over time and are difficult to replicate through individual effort alone. The Swedish study specifically noted that family background and social capital had a disproportionate effect on who reached the highest earning tiers, often more so than intelligence or educational achievement. Even as digital networking platforms have made it easier to connect, The advantage remains with those who understand how to maintain and activate relationships strategically. Executives who use advanced tools to manage their networks receive more board seat offers and business opportunities than those who rely solely on organic connections. The key distinction is not just the number of contacts, but the ability to mobilize them when it matters. Ultimately, the research makes it clear, at the highest income levels, knowledge and intelligence are necessary but not sufficient. Social capital, built through consistent networking, strategic relationship building, and access to influential circles, becomes the primary driver of opportunity and financial success. This explains why some individuals with average cognitive ability break into the top 1%, while many more intelligent peers plateau. Yet for every story of a networked individual breaking through, there are countless others whose efforts never reach the same heights. The visible success of well-connected top earners can obscure the reality that most who pursue these paths do not achieve such outcomes. The survivorship bias trap. Survivorship bias shapes much of what we believe about success. When we look at who makes it to the top 1%, especially among business owners and entrepreneurs, we're seeing only the winners. The stories that circulate in media, books, and social networks tend to highlight those who broke through, while the far greater number who tried and failed remain invisible. This creates a distorted sense of how attainable extreme financial success really is. The numbers tell a different story. About 65% of new businesses fail within 5 years, yet the public rarely hears from those who don't make it. Instead, the focus lands on the rare entrepreneurs who reach the top, giving the impression that risk-taking and moderate intelligence are surefire tickets to wealth. The reality is that for every individual with average cognitive ability who climbs into the highest income bracket, there are many more who never recover from failed ventures. The odds are long, but the high-profile successes make them seem shorter than they are. This imbalance in visibility fuels misconceptions about what it takes to get ahead. Media profiles and interviews with top earners usually emphasize traits like grit, hustle, and risk tolerance. Structural factors, such as access to family capital, timing, or pure luck, are mentioned less often, if at all. As a result, people underestimate the role of contingency and overestimate the replicability of these outcomes. The few who succeed become examples for everyone, even though their paths are outliers rather than norms. The data from the Swedish study supports this. While it's true that some individuals with moderate intelligence reach the top, most with similar backgrounds and abilities do not. The overwhelming majority fall short, regardless of how hard they work or how much risk they take on. When you only look at those who make it, you miss the broader context. Extreme financial outcomes are rare because the process weeds out most participants along the way. Industry-specific risks compound this effect. Sectors that promise high rewards, like tech startups or hospitality, are filled with stories of outsized success, but the baseline risk of failure is even higher. The few who thrive get disproportionate attention, while the silent majority who exit quietly are left out of the narrative. This skews perceptions, making it appear that intelligence is less important than it actually is, simply because the survivors are the only ones we see. Educational background is another area where survivorship bias creeps in. The myth of the uneducated millionaire persists, but most top earners still have degrees, even if not from elite schools. The exceptions get amplified, but the typical path involves a mix of formal education and opportunity. The rare cases of those who succeed without credentials are the ones highlighted, but they don't represent the majority experience. The cost of failure is also unevenly distributed. High IQ professionals who leave stable jobs to pursue entrepreneurship can often return to their previous careers if things don't work out. For others, the consequences are more severe: financial setbacks, debt, and years spent rebuilding. This reality means that the true risk is often hidden beneath the surface, and only the most resilient or fortunate manage to break through. Understanding survivorship bias is crucial for making sense of the data. It's easy to look at visible successes and draw the wrong conclusions about what's possible. The lesson isn't that intelligence doesn't matter or that risk-taking guarantees wealth, but that the odds are stacked against most who try. Outliers are by definition rare, and focusing on them can warp expectations. Don't let the prominence of a few outliers cloud your perspective on what's realistically achievable. The numbers behind education and earnings tell a more nuanced story. one that's important to keep in mind before dismissing the value of traditional credentials. Education still pays, just differently. For most people, a college degree remains the single most reliable step toward higher lifetime earnings. The data is clear. College graduates earn significantly more than those without degrees, and the gap grows over time. According to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, the average weekly pay for someone with a bachelor's degree is $1,493, compared to $899 for a high school graduate. Over a typical working life, that difference adds up to more than $1 million in additional income. This isn't a small edge. It's a financial safety net that shapes everything from housing options to retirement savings. The real impact of education, though, isn't in producing outliers or guaranteeing entry into the highest income brackets. Instead, education provides stability and predictability. It lowers the risk of unemployment, cushions against economic downturns, and makes it easier to move between jobs or industries. For those without a degree, the risks are higher. Workers without a high school diploma earn the least, about $708 a week, and are much more likely to experience long periods without work. Education acts as a form of insurance, protecting against the volatility that comes with less credentialed paths. College degrees also open doors to a wider range of careers. While professional fields like medicine, law, and engineering require years of specialized training and offer high starting salaries, even less marketable degrees still provide a buffer. Humanities majors, for example, consistently earn more than those with only a high school diploma, on average about 32% more over their careers. The field of study matters, but the baseline advantage of having a degree is substantial across the board. Yet, the ceiling for earnings through education alone is real. Most highly educated professionals, even in demanding fields, don't reach the top 1% of income earners. Doctors, lawyers, and engineers typically have high floors but capped ceilings. A neurosurgeon or trial lawyer might earn several times the median income, but their compensation is ultimately limited by the structure of their profession, billable hours, patient loads, and institutional pay scales. The most lucrative outcomes are reserved for those who combine education with other factors: risk-taking, ownership, and leverage. The structure of the labor market rewards education by reducing downside risk, not by promising unlimited upside. The difference between a college graduate and a high school dropout is most visible during periods of economic stress. When layoffs hit, degree holders are more likely to find new work quickly and maintain their standard of living. During the 2025 tech sector downturn, for example, laid-off engineers with degrees found new jobs much faster than self-taught programmers. This pattern repeats in every recession. Education doesn't make you rich, but it does make you resilient. Education also has benefits that don't show up in a paycheck. College graduates report better health, higher job satisfaction, and greater geographic mobility. They're more likely to have retirement savings, own homes, and pass on advantages to their children. These compounding effects make education a powerful tool for social mobility, even if it doesn't guarantee a spot among the economic elite. Still, the limitations are clear. Degrees deliver steady middle-class security, but breaking into the highest income levels requires something more. The traits that drive extreme wealth, ownership, risk tolerance, and the ability to build or scale enterprises aren't taught in most classrooms. For those aiming to maximize earnings, education is the foundation, but not the whole structure. This becomes especially apparent when looking at the paths of highly specialized professionals. While their expertise is unmatched in their fields, the financial rewards often plateau, highlighting a different kind of ceiling. The specialization one shaped ceiling, not by credentials, in high-income professions, but by the limits of specialization creates a distinct financial ceiling. Roles that demand years of focused training, like neurosurgery or high-stakes litigation, command impressive pay, but the path has limits. A neurosurgeon, for example, might reach $600,000 a year, but their income is closely tied to hours worked and the number of patients they can treat. The same holds for elite attorneys, top engineers, or other technical experts. Their earning power is capped by the need for their direct involvement and the finite market for their expertise. This ceiling emerges for two main reasons. First, specialized fields serve limited markets. Only a small number of people need the most complex medical procedures or legal interventions each year, which keeps demand and therefore income bounded. Second, even in the highest paying specialties, income is directly linked to time. No matter how skilled or efficient, there are only so many hours in a week, and administrative and preparation work eat into those billable hours. Specialists eventually find themselves trading time for money, with little ability to scale beyond what their own labor allows. Generalists, in contrast, often find ways to break past these limits. By integrating skills from different domains, they can create value that scales. A general contractor managing multiple construction crews might not earn as much per project as a single specialist, but by overseeing several jobs at once, they can surpass $1 million in annual earnings. Their leverage comes from coordination and breadth, not just depth. This pattern appears across industries. In medicine, the physicians who move beyond direct patient care by launching clinics, developing medical devices, or building healthcare systems unlock higher earning potential. In law, the most financially successful attorneys are those who transition from pure legal work to building practices, managing teams, or brokering deals. The same dynamic exists in creative and technical fields. Music producers, content entrepreneurs, and startup founders who combine several competencies routinely out-earn those who focus on a single area of mastery. Education and career structures often push talented people toward early specialization, reinforcing the ceiling. Medical residents choose subspecialties in their 20s, and PhD candidates narrow their focus to niche topics. These choices can make later pivots difficult, locking individuals into roles with limited upside. Even within corporations, technical experts must eventually move into management or cross-functional roles to advance, but many find that their training hasn't prepared them for this transition. Those unable or unwilling to broaden their skill sets often see their careers stall, regardless of their expertise. The difference in outcomes is also reflected in how people build networks. Specialists tend to network vertically, connecting deeply within their own fields. Generalists, however, build broader, horizontal relationships across industries, exposing themselves to more varied opportunities. This wider network often leads to better access to information, partnerships, and scalable ventures, advantages that can outweigh technical brilliance. The data suggests that past a certain point, financial success depends less on the depth of expertise and more on the ability to combine knowledge, manage complexity, and adapt to new opportunities. Polymaths and multidisciplinary founders report higher rates of breakthrough income, not because they are the smartest in any single field, but because they connect ideas and people in ways that specialists cannot. This is not to say that expertise doesn't matter. In fact, the most successful high earners often start with a foundation of deep knowledge in one area, then learn to apply it more broadly. They find ways to productize their skills, creating systems, intellectual property, or scalable businesses that move beyond trading hours for dollars. This hybrid approach helps overcome the limits imposed by specialization alone. Ultimately, while intelligence and expertise provide a strong start, reaching the very top of the income distribution requires more than mastery of a single domain. The ability to see connections, pivot across fields, and leverage a broad network sets generalists apart. Yet, even for those who combine talent and breadth, another unpredictable force often decides who makes it to the absolute top: the luck factor. Chance plays a surprisingly large role in who ends up at the very top of the income ladder. The Swedish study tracking cognitive ability and earnings found that luck and family resources often outweighed IQ among top earners. Intelligence may help individuals prepare for and recognize opportunities, but it doesn't generate those opportunities on its own. At high levels of financial success, randomness, who you meet when you enter a market, or which industry takes off, often matters more than raw ability. Look closely at the stories behind many top earners, and you'll find pivotal moments shaped by unpredictable events. A fortuitous investment or key partnership can change the entire course of a career, often more than years of careful planning or technical expertise. These turning points are rarely the result of pure intellect. The Swedish data even revealed that individuals in the top 1% of income had on average lower cognitive test scores than those just below them, emphasizing the outsized impact of factors beyond intelligence. Family resources play a significant part in this process. Inherited advantages, like access to capital, influential networks, or a financial safety net, allow some people to take risks that others can't afford. The study highlighted that many top earners with average test scores had family backing that helped them persist through early failures or seize opportunities when they appeared. This kind of support not only cushions setbacks, but also increases the odds of being in the right place at the right time. Timing is another critical element. Entering a field just as it's about to expand, or being exposed to a new technology before it becomes mainstream, can create disproportionate rewards. Early employees at tech companies or first movers in emerging markets often benefit from circumstances they couldn't have predicted or controlled. These advantages aren't distributed based on merit. They're the product of being present when the landscape shifts. Social networks amplify the effects of luck. Individuals with broad and diverse connections encounter a wider range of opportunities, many of which arise unexpectedly. A single introduction at an industry event or a chance meeting with a future business partner can have a greater impact than years of high performance in a stable job. The Swedish study found that, among those earning above the income threshold where intelligence stops predicting higher pay, social capital and exposure to chance events played a decisive role. Cumulative advantage compounds these effects over time. Small, random successes early in a career can lead to further opportunities, creating a snowball effect. Once someone gets a break, whether it's a major client, a viral product, or an early investment, the resulting momentum can carry them much further than skill alone would predict. This process helps explain why some individuals with only moderate cognitive ability end up out-earning their more talented peers. Understanding the luck factor doesn't diminish the value of preparation or effort. Instead, it highlights the importance of maximizing exposure to potential opportunities. Building diverse skills, maintaining a wide network, and staying alert to shifting trends all help increase the odds that chance will work in your favor. Relying solely on intellect or following a perfectly planned career path rarely leads to the highest levels of wealth. Those who reach the top often do so because they are prepared for luck's role and positioned to benefit when unpredictable moments arise. Recognizing the influence of luck is crucial, but it also raises questions about the systems that reward certain behaviors over others. The next layer of the story involves how the rules we're taught to follow can sometimes hold us back from the very outcomes we seek. The conformity tax. The conformity tax describes the hidden cost that comes from following established rules too closely, especially for those with high cognitive ability. Most people assume that top earners are geniuses, but research shows they often score no higher, or even lower, on IQ tests than those just below them. The Swedish study found a flattening of the correlation between intelligence and income past a certain threshold, debunking the myth of the supergenius millionaire. This pattern raises questions about how education and career systems shape financial outcomes for the most talented individuals. Education systems reward compliance and structure from an early age. High-achieving students quickly learn that following instructions, meeting deadlines, and excelling on standardized tests lead to praise and advancement. Over time, this conditioning encourages them to choose conventional career paths, professions with clear hierarchies, stable salaries, and predictable promotions. The result is a pipeline that channels some of the most capable minds into environments where rule following, rather than experimentation, is the primary route to success. Corporate hierarchies reinforce these tendencies. High IQ professionals excel at navigating established systems, mastering the metrics that determine raises and promotions. Yet these same systems penalize the kind of rule-breaking or risk-taking that often leads to outsized financial rewards. The Swedish study's data showed that, beyond a certain point, those who broke away from traditional paths, by starting businesses, switching industries, or taking unconventional risks, were more likely to reach the highest income levels, even if their measured intelligence was average. The conformity tax is visible in the timing and shape of career trajectories. High IQ individuals often follow a linear path: university, graduate school, entry-level job, steady promotions. In contrast, top earners tend to have nonlinear careers, marked by pivots, gaps, or abrupt changes. The education system, with its emphasis on grades and credentials, subtly discourages these deviations, making it harder for even the brightest to consider less predictable options. Financial decisions reflect a similar pattern. Intelligent professionals typically invest in traditional assets, index funds, retirement accounts, real estate, while top earners are more likely to pursue alternative investments, private ventures, or high-risk opportunities. This conservative approach protects wealth, but rarely multiplies it. The Swedish data suggests that the willingness to step outside financial norms is a bigger driver of extreme wealth than simply maximizing returns within safe boundaries. This isn't a matter of intelligence being unimportant. Rather, it's about how intelligence gets channeled by social and institutional pressures. The education to employment pipeline is designed to produce reliable, effective employees who fit into existing structures. But the financial system, especially at the top end, rewards those who are willing to challenge conventions, take strategic risks, and adapt to changing circumstances. The conformity tax also explains why some of the most intellectually gifted people plateau financially. The same traits that make someone a standout student, precision, caution, rule following, can limit their ability to seize unpredictable opportunities. In stable, structured environments like hospitals or corporations, intelligence is a strong predictor of success. In chaotic or rapidly evolving domains, practical skills, risk tolerance, and the ability to adapt often matter more. True financial success depends on practical skills and opportunity recognition, not just test scores. The difference between those who reach the highest income levels and those who fall short often comes down to how they apply their abilities in the real world. For many, breaking free from the conformity tax means learning to navigate uncertainty, build relationships, and spot value in places others overlook. This dynamic becomes even clearer when you look at fields where personality and interpersonal skills, not just intellect, drive outsized financial results. The charisma premium. Charisma, rather than intellect, often sets the highest earners apart in fields where results depend on persuasion and connection. The sales industry demonstrates this most clearly. In 2025, analysis of compensation data from thousands of professionals showed that top sales performers routinely out-earned their technically gifted colleagues, despite averaging lower cognitive scores. The pattern is consistent across industries. Those who excel at building rapport, reading people, and converting opportunities into revenue gain access to income levels that technical specialists rarely reach. This charisma premium is especially visible in commission-driven roles, where earnings scale directly with performance. Unlike fixed salary jobs, these positions allow for almost unlimited upside. A pharmaceutical rep or real estate agent who masters the nuances of client interaction can outpace even the most knowledgeable peers. The Swedish study reinforces this observation. Above the €60,000 income threshold, cognitive ability stops differentiating top earners, and other traits, especially social skills, become decisive. In fact, the highest-earning individuals often score slightly lower on intelligence tests than those just below them, suggesting that something other than raw intellect is at play. The mechanism behind this premium is straightforward. Persuasion, trust building, and emotional intelligence have a direct impact on revenue generation. A salesperson who can sense a client's hesitation and address it effectively will close more deals than someone with superior product knowledge but weaker interpersonal skills. This is not limited to sales. In consulting, law, and medicine, those who manage relationships and influence outcomes see their compensation rise well beyond what technical mastery alone would command. Standardized education rarely cultivates these abilities. Schools focus on academic achievement and measurable skills, leaving social intelligence to be developed through experience or mentorship. The result is a workforce where many high IQ professionals find themselves outpaced by colleagues with average credentials, but exceptional people skills. Studies tracking career outcomes have found that only a small fraction of top earners attribute their success to classroom learning. Most credit on-the-job learning, networking, and the ability to navigate complex social environments. Social intelligence operates on a different axis from academic intelligence. It involves reading subtle cues, adapting to shifting dynamics, and influencing others' decisions, skills that are hard to measure but critical for financial success. Research from consulting firms and client-facing industries shows that the most successful partners and rainmakers consistently score high on social perception and influence metrics, even if their analytical scores are only average. Their value comes from their ability to drive outcomes in unpredictable, human-centered situations. The charisma premium becomes even more important as automation and technology reshape the labor market. As machines handle routine analysis and technical tasks, the unique value of human interaction grows. Employers increasingly prioritize candidates who can build trust, negotiate, and lead teams over those who simply excel on standardized tests. The shift is visible in hiring and promotion trends. Roles that reward social skills are growing faster and paying more than those that depend solely on technical expertise. Networking amplifies these effects. Outgoing, socially adept professionals build broader connections, which in turn create more opportunities for advancement and income growth. These advantages compound over a career, leading to a widening gap between those who rely on charisma and those who depend on credentials alone. Even early in life, sociability predicts future earnings, with studies showing that children rated as highly sociable go on to earn significantly more than their less outgoing peers, regardless of academic performance. The market rewards those who can make interactions pleasant and productive. In service industries, clients pay a premium not just for competence, but for the experience of working with someone they like and trust. This is why a personable accountant or attorney often builds a more lucrative practice than a technically brilliant but socially awkward competitor. The ability to create positive emotional experiences becomes a key differentiator in who climbs to the highest rungs of the income ladder. Recognizing the role of charisma helps explain why intelligence alone doesn't guarantee financial success. At the highest levels, the combination of adequate cognitive skills and strong interpersonal abilities is what sets top earners apart. But even with these advantages, another factor consistently separates those who reach the top from everyone else: a difference in how they approach the long game. The time horizon difference. A defining difference between top earners and high IQ professionals is how they think about and use time. While intelligence supports efficient problem solving and stable career progress, those who reach the uppermost income levels tend to operate on a much longer time horizon. They are willing to invest years of effort and resources into projects with uncertain payoffs, often sacrificing immediate comfort for the chance at much greater future rewards. Research from Sweden shows that cognitive ability is a strong predictor of income up to about 60,000 euros annually. Beyond this point, the relationship breaks down. Top 1% earners do not have higher IQs than those just below them. What separates these individuals is not raw intellect, but their approach to persistence, risk, and time allocation. Many high IQ professionals seek work-life balance early in their careers, valuing steady hours and predictable advancement. In contrast, future top earners are more likely to take on long hours, juggle multiple projects, and accept periods of uncertainty or instability if it means building something that can scale. This divergence is especially clear in early career decisions. Those who end up in the top 1% often work multiple jobs or start side ventures in their 20s, building momentum before their peers have even finished graduate school. According to recent career data, a large majority of top earners report holding concurrent income streams before age 30. This willingness to embrace a demanding schedule early on creates a compounding advantage: financial gains, experience, and networks that snowball over time. Meanwhile, many high-achieving professionals focus on perfecting their skills in a single area, progressing steadily but rarely accelerating past the income ceiling imposed by their chosen field. The difference in outcomes isn't just about hours worked. It's about how time is invested. For example, medical residents and entrepreneurs might both work long weeks, but the entrepreneur's time often goes into building equity in systems that generate ongoing returns, while the resident's hours translate directly into salary and experience. 10 years later, the entrepreneur may have built an asset that produces income with less day-to-day involvement, while the specialist continues to trade time for money. Swedish data also highlights the importance of persistence through career ups and downs. Many top earners have nonlinear paths, with periods of unemployment or failed ventures before eventual breakthroughs. High IQ professionals, by contrast, tend to minimize gaps and avoid risk, sticking to conventional trajectories. The study found that nonlinear and risk-tolerant career patterns were far more common among those who eventually reached the highest income levels. Another crucial factor is confidence. Confidence influences earnings by affecting negotiation, risk-taking, and visibility. Many professionals trained to value intelligence underestimate the financial impact of self-assurance. A confident individual is more likely to ask for promotions, pursue ambitious projects, and recover from setbacks. Research shows that confident workers earn nearly 20% more over time than equally qualified but less assured peers. This edge compounds as careers progress, especially for those willing to step outside traditional roles. The education system often reinforces a short-term mindset, rewarding immediate results and clear milestones. But top earners become comfortable with delayed gratification and ambiguous outcomes. They invest time in building systems, relationships, and assets that may not pay off for years. This mindset shift, seeing time as a tool for leverage rather than just a resource to be spent, underpins much of their financial success. Cultivating practical confidence and adopting a longer time horizon are essential for those aiming to maximize their financial opportunities. Intelligence helps optimize what you do in the moment, but sustained strategic effort over time is what creates outsized results. This approach sets the stage for the next principle: understanding how to multiply your efforts, not just your hours. The leverage principle. The leverage principle explains why some individuals dramatically outpace others in financial outcomes, even when their intelligence and work ethic are similar. Ownership and systems amplify effort. Top earners focus on building teams, deploying capital, and creating processes that generate income independently of their direct involvement. By shifting from selling personal time to orchestrating collective output, they multiply their results in ways that solo professionals, no matter how skilled, cannot match. A clear illustration is the difference between a business owner who employs a team and a highly credentialed solo practitioner. For example, a small firm owner who coordinates 5 employees will generate more value per hour than a single consultant working alone, even if the consultant has higher test scores or more specialized knowledge. The owner's income comes not just from their own labor, but from the combined productivity of everyone they organize and support. This dynamic holds true across industries. Whether in real estate, tech, or manufacturing, those who build scalable structures consistently pull ahead of those who rely solely on personal expertise. Financial leverage is another layer of this principle. Individuals who can access capital through loans, investment, or family resources have the ability to scale up quickly. With additional funding, they can hire staff, purchase equipment, or expand operations, moving beyond the limits of what one person can accomplish. The Swedish data shows that many top earners started with some form of early capital, which allowed them to set up systems and teams that multiplied their impact. This is a key reason why moderate intelligence, paired with resources, often beats brilliance without leverage. Technology has expanded leverage opportunities even further. Digital tools and platforms allow a single person to reach thousands or millions of customers with minimal incremental effort. A content creator who develops an online course or a software developer who builds a subscription service can earn many times more than someone providing the same service one-on-one. The difference isn't always in talent or knowledge, but in the ability to use systems that scale, turning a single hour of work into ongoing returns. The education system rarely prepares people for this kind of thinking. Most academic paths reward individual achievement and mastery of specialized skills, rather than the ability to coordinate groups, delegate, or build automated workflows. As a result, many high-achieving professionals end up optimizing their own productivity while missing out on the exponential gains that come from building something bigger than themselves. Employers, too, often reinforce this bias by promoting those who excel at individual tasks, instead of those who create systems that reduce reliance on any one person. Industries that reward leverage, such as business ownership, real estate, and distribution, are overrepresented among top earners. In contrast, fields that emphasize individual expertise, medicine, law, academia, offer high incomes but rarely the kind of exponential upside that comes from scalable structures. Census data consistently shows that the majority of 7-figure incomes derive from ownership stakes, not salaries, underscoring the central role of leverage in extreme financial outcomes. Remote work and digital collaboration have only accelerated these trends. The ability to manage distributed teams, automate workflows, and reach global markets means that the ceiling for scalable effort is higher than ever. Those who master these tools can multiply their results far beyond what's possible in traditional, location-bound roles. The practical lesson is clear. Focus on building structures that multiply your effort, not just optimizing personal productivity. Intelligence and hard work lay the foundation, but the biggest rewards go to those who design systems, mobilize resources, and lead teams. This approach not only changes individual outcomes, but also shapes the broader landscape of who reaches the top. Yet, even for those who understand and apply the leverage principle, another challenge emerges. One that has less to do with systems and more to do with the abundance of options available. The opportunity cost paradox emerges most clearly among high IQ professionals. Having too many promising options can actually limit the pursuit of exceptional financial outcomes. When individuals possess the cognitive ability to excel in a wide range of fields, they attract more job offers, scholarships, and advancement opportunities than their peers. This abundance of choices leads to a tendency to hedge, accepting stable, prestigious jobs while keeping other avenues open, rather than committing fully to a single high-risk path. The resulting decision paralysis means that many intelligent professionals end up optimizing for security and status, rather than the outsized rewards that come from full commitment. Labor market data from recent years underscores this effect. High-achieving graduates routinely receive multiple offers from consulting firms, tech companies, and financial institutions. The security of these roles is appealing, especially when compared to the uncertainty of entrepreneurship or early specialization. Many of these graduates accept positions they view as stepping stones, telling themselves they'll decide on their real career later. But this approach often stretches on for years, and the habit of keeping options open becomes ingrained. The paradox is that the very ability to access multiple good paths can make it harder to take the kind of risks that lead to breakthrough financial success. In contrast, individuals with fewer conventional opportunities frequently outperform their more gifted peers at the very top of the income spectrum. With less to lose and fewer fallback options, they are more likely to focus early on ventures that have the potential to scale. The Swedish study illustrates this clearly. While intelligence correlates with earnings up to a certain point, the relationship flattens beyond an annual income of about 60,000 euros. At the highest income levels, those who committed to entrepreneurship or ownership, often without elite credentials, outperformed those who remained in traditional roles, even if their measured intelligence was lower. The difference in approach is stark. High IQ professionals often weigh multiple good options against each other, optimizing for the best possible outcome within established systems. Entrepreneurs, on the other hand, are more likely to commit fully to one promising opportunity, accepting the risk of failure in exchange for the possibility of outsized gains. This difference in risk appetite and focus explains why so many top earners are not the most academically accomplished, but rather those willing to pursue a single path with intensity. This paradox extends to skill development as well. Highly intelligent individuals are encouraged to cultivate broad, transferable skills, keeping as many doors open as possible. This makes sense in a world where job markets are unpredictable and careers can change direction. However, the biggest financial windfalls tend to go to those who develop deep, monetizable expertise in a single area, especially if that area can be leveraged through ownership or scalable business models. Corporate structures reinforce this pattern. Promotion systems reward versatility and adaptability, often at the expense of deep specialization. Employees who are seen as well-rounded move up the ladder, but their compensation rarely matches that of those who build irreplaceable expertise or take the leap into business ownership. The opportunity cost of staying on a safe, conventional path is invisible in the moment, but becomes obvious over a lifetime. Geography adds another layer. High IQ professionals often gravitate to major cities with abundant job opportunities, where competition is fierce but rewards are predictable. Many top earners, however, build their fortunes in less saturated markets, where scarcity of options forces creative solutions and greater risk-taking. The Swedish data and supporting research from other countries show that a significant share of self-made millionaires and business owners come from outside the largest metro areas. The education premium further complicates decision-making. Advanced degrees provide valuable fallback options, but can also discourage risk-taking. Those with the most training have invested heavily in conventional paths, making it psychologically harder to walk away and try something uncertain. The result is a rational, risk-averse approach that maximizes security but limits the chance of extraordinary outcomes. Understanding the opportunity cost paradox is essential for anyone aiming for the highest levels of financial success. Too many good options can dilute focus and delay the kind of commitment needed to achieve exceptional results. High IQ professionals often hedge between jobs, while entrepreneurs commit fully and reap the rewards. Recognizing this trade-off is the first step toward making more deliberate, high-impact choices, especially when the next challenge is learning what actually protects against failure in the world of business. The failure immunity myth. Even the smartest founders are not immune to failure when capital runs short. The belief that intelligence alone shields entrepreneurs from business collapse is persistent, but the evidence points in another direction. Across industries, companies started by individuals with top-tier cognitive test scores fail at nearly the same rates as those started by average performers. The difference isn't found in IQ, but in access to capital. Well-funded startups survive longer, regardless of the founder's intelligence. Cash reserves, not cleverness, provide the buffer during lean periods, allowing businesses to adapt and recover from mistakes that would otherwise be fatal. The Swedish research tracking cognitive ability and income reinforces this reality. Intelligence correlates with earnings up to a certain level, but beyond that, the relationship weakens and even reverses. Among the highest earners, cognitive scores plateau or decline, suggesting that other factors, especially financial resources, take precedence in determining who survives and prospers in business. For entrepreneurs, this means that operational realities like cash flow and funding gaps often outweigh the benefits of strategic thinking or analytical skill. Many intelligent founders fall into the trap of overvaluing their problem-solving abilities and underestimating the importance of financial runway. Data from recent years shows that startups led by highly educated founders fail just as often as those started by tradespeople when both groups have similar funding. The difference is that the tradespeople tend to focus on cash flow and sustainability from day one, while the more educated founders may pursue ambitious strategies that require larger, riskier bets. When funds run out, even the best ideas and sharpest minds can't prevent closure. Funding gaps create vulnerabilities that intelligence cannot patch. In competitive markets, well-capitalized rivals can outlast smarter but poorer competitors through price wars, longer marketing campaigns, or simply by absorbing losses until others fold. Bank lending practices and investor preferences further reinforce this dynamic, often favoring applicants with existing assets or family backing over those with strong business plans but limited capital. This gives a structural advantage to those who start with more resources, regardless of their cognitive abilities. The myth of failure immunity is also fueled by selective storytelling. Success stories in the media rarely mention the family wealth or early investments that provided crucial runway. Most profiles focus on the founder's vision or intellect, glossing over the more mundane but essential fact of having enough money to survive the first few years. In reality, a significant portion of successful entrepreneurs had access to informal investment from family, friends, or alumni networks, support that often made the difference between survival and failure. Professional networks and educational pedigree can open doors to funding that aren't available to everyone. Founders from elite backgrounds or prestigious schools receive more informal investment and have easier access to capital, which translates into longer survival times for their ventures. This advantage compounds over time, as each additional year in business increases the likelihood of finding a sustainable model or pivoting to a more viable market. What emerges from these patterns is clear. Intelligence helps entrepreneurs identify opportunities and navigate challenges, but it cannot replace the need for adequate funding. The most resilient businesses are those with enough capital to weather setbacks, experiment, and adapt as needed. Many brilliant founders fail not because they make poor decisions, but because they exhaust their resources before their strategies can take hold. This disconnect between perceived and actual drivers of business survival points to a broader misunderstanding about what intelligence looks like in practice. It's easy to assume that financial success is a direct reflection of cognitive ability, but the reality is more complex. The next section explores how we consistently misjudge the connection between intelligence and financial outcomes, and why the traits that matter most for success often go unnoticed. The perception gap, public understanding of who earns the most, and why is shaped by a persistent perception gap. Most people assume that the highest earners must also be the most intelligent, equating large paychecks with high cognitive ability. Yet research from Sweden, which tracked tens of thousands of men from their military conscription test scores through decades of earnings, shows that this assumption doesn't hold up. The data reveals that while intelligence predicts income up to a point, about €60,000 per year, the relationship falls apart at higher levels. In fact, individuals in the top 1% of earners actually scored slightly lower on cognitive tests than those just below them. The implication is clear. The traits that drive extreme financial success are more varied and less easily measured than most people realize. This disconnect starts early. Schools and universities reward students who excel at standardized tests, essays, and the kind of analytical thinking that gets labeled as smart. These markers of intelligence are easy to quantify, so they become the default way society distinguishes high potential. But the Swedish study and similar research highlight that these skills, while valuable, are not the only ingredients for financial achievement. Above the income threshold where intelligence stops matching, other abilities like risk-taking, adaptability, and social capital take over as the main differentiators. The persistence of the perception gap is reinforced by the way media and culture frame financial success. News stories and profiles of wealthy individuals often use terms like brilliant or genius, regardless of actual test scores. Movies and television depict top earners as super-intelligent masterminds, further entrenching the idea that raw intellect is the key to riches. In reality, the Swedish data shows that luck, timing, family resources, and practical skills play a much larger role at the highest levels of income than most people expect. The result is a distorted view of what it takes to get ahead, with society overvaluing certain forms of intelligence while overlooking others. This misalignment also shows up inside organizations. Companies often promote employees who present well or who have impressive academic backgrounds, assuming these qualities will translate to leadership or business growth. Yet studies repeatedly show that employees with strong communication and social skills, even if their test scores are average, tend to earn more and advance faster than quieter, analytically superior peers. The Swedish findings echo this. Emotional intelligence, negotiation, and the ability to build networks become increasingly important as income rises, while the advantage of cognitive ability fades. The perception gap has consequences for both individuals and institutions. Talented people who excel in academic environments may expect their intelligence alone to guarantee financial rewards, only to find that the market values a different set of skills. Meanwhile, those with average test scores but high practical intelligence or social savvy often outperform expectations, especially in fields where results depend on navigating uncertainty or persuading others. This dynamic helps explain why some of the wealthiest entrepreneurs and business owners struggled in school or scored below the top percentiles on standardized tests. It's not that intelligence is irrelevant, far from it. Instead, the evidence suggests that traditional measures of intelligence capture only part of what's needed for financial success. Applied intelligence, adaptability, and the ability to recognize and seize opportunities matter just as much, if not more, once a certain income level is reached. The Swedish studies finding that top earners scored slightly lower on cognitive tests than those just below them should prompt a rethink of how we define and measure potential. Recognizing the perception gap is the first step toward understanding why so many high achievers plateau financially, while others with less conventional backgrounds break through to the top. This realization also raises questions about how well the education system prepares people for real-world success, and whether the skills most rewarded in school align with those that actually drive wealth creation. The education mismatch. The education mismatch becomes clear when you look at how schools and universities prepare people for the realities of the job market and wealth creation. While academic systems reward analytical thinking, memorization, and precision, these skills only translate directly to higher earnings up to a certain point. Beyond that threshold, roughly 60,000 euros a year according to Swedish data, other abilities start to matter more, and the value of academic achievement alone begins to wane. A closer look at the Swedish study reveals that individuals in the top 1% of earners actually scored slightly lower on intelligence tests than those just below them. This finding runs counter to the popular belief that the smartest people always end up the wealthiest. The explanation lies in the traits that education systems tend to encourage. Schools prize careful calculation, risk avoidance, and adherence to established rules. These habits work well for climbing predictable career ladders, but can limit the bold decision-making and adaptability needed to build substantial wealth. Corporate hierarchies highlight this conflict. Employees who excel at meeting targets and following procedures often rise to middle management, But those who break away from convention by starting businesses or moving quickly on new opportunities are the ones who reach the highest income brackets. Fortune 500 executives, for example, tend to rank high on cognitive ability, but not at the very top. Their success comes from a mix of intelligence, people skills, and a willingness to take calculated risks, not just academic credentials. The way education filters for a narrow type of intelligence further explains the disconnect. Advanced degrees test for the ability to analyze information under controlled conditions, but this doesn't always translate to identifying market gaps or creating value in unpredictable environments. Studies comparing MBA graduates to successful entrepreneurs have found that those who challenged assumptions and took unconventional approaches often achieved more in business than their higher-scoring classmates. Standardized testing adds another layer to the mismatch. Exams reward focused, disciplined thinking and penalize mistakes, while the market often rewards those who experiment, take risks, and pivot quickly after failure. The skills that help someone ace tests don't always align with the qualities that lead to breakthrough financial outcomes. Many successful entrepreneurs report average or below average academic performance, but excel in pattern recognition, improvisation, and social influence, traits not measured by exams. The timeline of rewards also differs. Schools train students to expect quick feedback and immediate results, while building wealth typically requires long-term commitment and patience. Data shows that the wealthiest entrepreneurs work longer hours and endure more uncertainty in their early careers, while high IQ professionals often choose stability and balance. This preference for short-term achievement can leave academically successful individuals less prepared for the delayed gratification required in business. Risk tolerance is another dividing line. Academic environments discourage failure, attaching penalties to mistakes that can shape entire educational trajectories. In contrast, markets often reward those who fail fast, learn, and adapt. A notable share of top earners attribute their breakthroughs to chance discoveries or lessons learned from failed ventures, an approach rarely encouraged in traditional classrooms. The education mismatch is not a condemnation of schooling, but a recognition of its limitations. Cognitive ability and a solid educational foundation open doors to stable, well-paying jobs and offer protection against economic shocks. However, the skills needed to break into the highest income levels, adaptability, social fluency, and comfort with uncertainty, are rarely taught or measured in academic settings. This explains why the link between intelligence and income weakens as earnings rise. For students and professionals, the practical takeaway is that academic success alone is not a reliable predictor of financial potential. Developing complementary skills, such as negotiation, sales, and resilience, can make a far greater difference at the upper end of the earnings spectrum. Those who recognize and address the education mismatch position themselves to seize opportunities that others overlook. As the demands of the market shift and automation handles more routine cognitive work, the importance of qualities beyond test scores will only increase. In this environment, other personal attributes start to play a larger role in shaping financial outcomes, setting the stage for a closer look at how seemingly intangible traits can quietly shape who gets ahead. The compound interest of confidence. Confidence is an often overlooked force in shaping financial outcomes, especially once intelligence stops being the primary driver of income. While cognitive ability opens doors and provides a foundation for early career progress, confidence determines who steps through those doors and how far they advance after that. A 2025 meta-analysis of salary data found that professionals with moderate confidence earn nearly 20% more than equally qualified but less assured peers in the same roles. This difference isn't just about being more vocal in meetings. It's about a series of small, cumulative behaviors that shift earning trajectories over time. Negotiation is a clear example. Early career professionals who negotiate their starting salaries create a higher baseline for future raises and bonuses. Over the course of a decade, the gap widens considerably. A study tracking tens of thousands of workers found that those who negotiated their first job offer earned up to 40% more after 10 years than those who accepted the initial offer without question. Each successful negotiation not only boosts income, but also reinforces a sense of self-efficacy, making it more likely the individual will seek out bigger challenges and higher-paying opportunities later on. The compounding effect of confidence extends beyond paychecks. Confident individuals are more likely to pursue promotions, volunteer for high-visibility projects, and take calculated risks that less assertive colleagues might avoid. Over time, these choices lead to divergent career paths. Moderately intelligent but self-assured professionals often move into roles that stretch their abilities, while highly intelligent but hesitant peers may hold back, second-guessing their readiness for advancement. The Swedish data showing top earners with slightly lower cognitive test scores than those just below them may reflect this pattern. Confidence bridging the gap where ability alone is not enough. Workplace dynamics amplify these differences. Performance reviews and promotion decisions often favor those who present ideas assertively, even when their underlying work is no stronger than that of quieter colleagues. A recent Harvard study found managers rated confident employees as more competent and promotable, regardless of actual output. This perception bias translates directly to compensation and advancement, with confident employees averaging larger raises and faster promotions. The same principle applies in client-facing and sales environments. Revenue generation in these fields depends as much on perceived certainty as on technical expertise. Studies consistently show that clients and customers respond more favorably to professionals who project confidence, even when the actual advice or product is identical. In real-world terms, this means that social skills, especially the ability to convey assurance and build trust, drive revenue generation well beyond what intelligence alone can achieve. Education systems, however, often fail to foster confidence. Schools reward perfectionism, caution, and conformity, habits that can undermine self-assurance in negotiations and ambiguous situations. Research has shown that students with perfect academic records tend to negotiate less aggressively and pursue fewer leadership opportunities than their more confident, but less academically accomplished peers. Over time, these early patterns compound, leading to persistent differences in earnings and career progress. Confidence also shapes risk tolerance and networking. Self-assured individuals are more likely to invest in themselves, change industries, or relocate for better opportunities. They tend to build broader professional networks, opening more doors and increasing exposure to chance events that can change the course of a career. The Swedish research highlighted that, among those earning above the intelligence income threshold, risk-taking and social capital were more predictive of financial outcomes than test scores. These feedback loops, where early confidence leads to small wins, which in turn reinforce greater self-assurance, explain why some moderately intelligent professionals surpass their more gifted peers. The cumulative effect is similar to compound interest in finance. Small advantages, repeated and reinforced, lead to dramatically different outcomes over time. Ultimately, the premium placed on confidence helps explain the disconnect between intelligence and extreme wealth. While ability matters, the behaviors that drive long-term financial success often have more to do with self-perception and the willingness to act. This insight reframes how we understand the relationship between intelligence and income, setting up a more nuanced view of what actually drives people to the top. The bottom line: when you break down the data on intelligence and income, a clear pattern emerges. The relationship is strongest at the lower and middle ends of the earnings scale, but it plateaus sharply as incomes rise. The 2025 study from Linköping University, which tracked tens of thousands of Swedish men over decades, found that cognitive ability predicts earnings reliably up to about €60,000 a year. Beyond that, the connection fades. At the very top, those earning in the top 1% actually scored lower on intelligence tests than the group just below them. This finding challenges the long-held belief that intelligence is the main driver of extreme wealth. Instead, intelligence operates more like a baseline requirement. It gets you in the door, but it doesn't guarantee you'll reach the highest floors. The researchers identified three broad earning phases. Below €60,000, intelligence directly affects job performance and pay. In the middle range, where incomes sit between €60,000 and €200,000, the combination of cognitive ability and specialized skills is most valuable. But above €200,000, other traits, risk tolerance, social skills, persistence, start to matter more than raw intellect. This is why you see business owners or sales leaders with average test scores earning far more than highly intelligent professionals in technical or academic roles. In these upper brackets, the market rewards execution, adaptability, and the ability to spot and seize opportunities. Several factors explain. Why the intelligence income link breaks down at the top. Highly intelligent people often gravitate toward prestigious fields where pay is capped, academia, medicine, research, rather than high-variance paths like entrepreneurship or sales. Business owners, who make up the bulk of top 1% earners, succeed less because of high IQ and more because they can build teams, take calculated risks, and leverage networks. The study also points to the role of luck and family resources. Random events and inherited advantages often shape who gets a shot at the biggest rewards. The structure of education and career ladders reinforces these outcomes. Schools and universities reward methodical thinking, rule following, and analytical problem solving. These traits are valuable, but they don't always transfer to the unpredictable environments where the largest fortunes are made. MBA programs, for example, train students for middle management roles rather than for the ambiguity and improvisation required to build a business from scratch. This helps explain why some of today's top earners struggled in academic settings. Their strengths simply weren't the ones being measured. Behavioral traits compound these effects over time. Confidence, risk appetite, and social agility can create opportunities and open doors that intelligence alone cannot. The research found that professionals who scored higher on risk tolerance or demonstrated greater persistence were much more likely to break into the highest earning brackets. These qualities are rarely the focus of formal education, yet they're crucial for navigating the real-world volatility of business and markets. Market realities also play a part. Employers and clients pay for solutions, not for potential. A moderately intelligent person who delivers results quickly and reliably will often out-earn someone with higher test scores, but less practical focus. This is especially true in fields where value is measured by outcomes, not credentials. Another important dynamic is how top earners approach time. They tend to work longer and invest more effort up front, creating compounded results that outpace even brilliant professionals who optimize for balance or security. This willingness to take on more risk and delay gratification amplifies the gap over years or decades. For most people, the lesson isn't to chase the highest possible IQ or take reckless risks. Instead, it's about identifying where your abilities intersect with what the market values, and then developing the behavioral skills that multiply your earning potential. The Swedish study suggests that the most effective strategy is to build on your strengths, cognitive, social, or otherwise, while staying alert to opportunities that align with your personal risk profile. Education and intelligence still matter, but their main role is to provide a safety net, not a ticket to the top. The highest earners combine this foundation with timing, adaptability, and sometimes a bit of luck. Income distributions don't mirror IQ distributions because wealth is shaped by many moving parts, some within our control, others not. These findings push us to rethink how we define merit and reward. Intelligence is one piece of a much larger puzzle, and the most successful people are often those who combine enough ability with the right mix of traits and circumstances. This more nuanced perspective sets the stage for a final reflection on what really matters for financial success. Intelligence helps you reach a comfortable income, but it's not the main driver of extreme wealth. The Swedish data shows that the link between cognitive ability and earnings flattens out at higher levels. Top earners often rely more on traits like risk tolerance, confidence, and strong networks. Business ownership and leverage matter more than test scores once you pass a certain income threshold. Education and skills still provide stability and options, but if your goal is to maximize earnings, focus on building the behavioral traits and practical strategies that markets reward. Align your choices with your strengths, and recognize that the path to the top is shaped by more than just intellect.